Tonight we continue our segments with candidates running in this year's election for City Council. Our guest is a candidate who's running at large after heading the Mayor's Office of Immigrant Advancement. We'd like to welcome Alejandra St. Guillen. Thank you much for being with us.
Thank
Alejandra.
you. Thanks so much for having me.
First of all, talk about growing up in Boston and what put you on the path to public service.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was born and raised in Mission Hill. My father's an immigrant from Venezuela. My mother was a hairdresser from New Hampshire, and they made their home and raised their family in Mission Hill, in a place that we didn't have a lot in terms of wealth, but what we had in terms of resources and connections was wonderful. And it was a place where working class family could raise their daughters and have access to schools nearby. And so it was really a really wonderful place to grow up. And my commitment to service was really started with my parents and what they taught me in terms of empathy and in terms of respect. And my father, he passed away when I was 13, but even in those short years that I had him, I learned so much about what it meant to be a good person. He worked with young people who were drug addicted and who were court involved. And he always looked at someone and saw who they could be, what their potential, and never judged based on any actions that they might have taken. And I took with me those lessons about service throughout my career. As a teacher, I was a public school teacher in New York and then here in Boston before I ran OISTE, a statewide Latino civic engagement organization, and then, as you mentioned, heading up the Office for Immigrant Advancement. And so my life has been in service both inside and outside of government, and that's why I'm taking this step right now to serve in a new and exciting way.
You say it's exciting. The City Council does have limited powers. So
yeah.
Why do you want to be one of these councilors?
Yeah, so it's true in terms of actual formal charter and formal powers. What we've seen in the City Council over the past few years has been the power of the council when you have really strong councilors on it, and the power to leverage ideas, the power to highlight issues that are impacting the community and using your voice to take a stand. The power of being able to hold hearings and provide oversight on the budget, for example, is something that does actually bring change and bring discussion on issues that are impacting people across the city. Right now we have people who are being pushed out. We lost a tremendous amount of population. Between 1950 and 1980, we lost 250,000 people almost 250,000 people in the city of Boston. And the people who stayed here and the people who came here are the ones who really rebuilt the city and made it what it was. These are the very same people who are in the front lines of being displaced. And so as a city councilor, you're able to set those policies in housing. You're able to bring to light innovative ideas of things that we can do to mitigate the impacts of gentrification and displacement. You're able to look at the Boston Public School budget or the Build BPS and question how it's being spent. You're able to go to the State House and advocate for a fair funding formula, able to enact policies that are going to protect our immigrant residents. So, there is limited power in terms of actual formal power, but what I have seen and something that I look forward to doing on the council is utilizing that role and that position to really bring to light the issues that are impacting Bostonians across the city.
We hear more talk, at least, about rent control, which would be a long shot if it involves some kind of State House approval. But do we have to move in that direction, you think?
Yeah, I think so. I think we have to be the actions that we need to take need to be aggressive. They need to be bold. I think there's a lot of let's throw our hands up because it's the private market and we want as much building as possible, but we can't take that mentality. We need to understand that families like my own who helped build this city really should be on the front. It should be on our minds and be our priorities in talking about who gets to stay here. And in order to do that, there will have to be some bold moves. I think rent control is a great idea. I'm excited about the bill at the State House, Mike Connolly's bill at the State House, allowing for local control in terms of how you levy taxes on transfer taxes on real estate transactions. I think that's something, we're so stymied by having to go through home rule petition for so many things. The ability to give that control back to the cities could be game changing. Lydia Edwards has proposed a 6% tax on transfers, luxury real estate transfers. I think that is something moving in the right direction. We need an influx. We need full payment of our payment in lieu of taxes. Our institutions who benefit from benefit from the infrastructure, and the people in our city need to also be giving back to our city.
This is BNN News, and we're talking with the candidate for City Councilor at Large, Alejandra St. Guillen. Alejandra, the city has a Trust Act which limits local government's cooperation with federal immigration enforcement, but we saw some cooperation, maybe not in violation of that law, but should that local law be strengthened, you think?
Absolutely, yeah. I was very concerned to see the case where the gentleman who was filing for workers' comp was then set up by his employer and reported to ICE via the Boston Police Department. I think that is something that is not who we are in the city of Boston. The Trust Act is limited to what are called ICE detainers, so requests to hold someone longer than they would normally be held. So that's really just in relationship to people who are arrested. And so if we need to strengthen the Trust Act so that we are specific about not being involved in employment matters, if you receive a call, in terms of someone's identity, questioning someone's identity fraud, then that should go to the fraud department of the Boston Police Department. There's no reason why that would go to Homeland Security and to ICE. Our workers are already afraid. One thing people need to know is that workers, regardless of status, do in fact have workers' rights and are entitled to compensation when they get hurt, and they shouldn't be afraid to file that. They're providing for their families, and to be in fear of deportation because you get hurt on the job is just something that we shouldn't stand for as a city.
I want to ask you about schools. Everybody, I think, wants more money from the state, but when you consider we have something like 49 schools that need some kind of assistance or intervention in Boston, I mean, the dial isn't moving up enough for those schools.
Right.
What would you like to see done?
So you're right. I think one of the first things is the funding formula, and there, the Promise Act at the bill. There's, a lot of support in terms of changing the funding formula and making sure that our students, our ELL students, our special needs students, that we're getting the payments that we need in order to really provide. I think that will actually will help tremendously. We have to look at social workers and nurses in every single school. Many of our students are experiencing trauma in their homes or in their neighborhoods, which make it very difficult to learn. School right now, when we talk about school and we talk about urban education, it's not just the curriculum, it's actually the holistic opportunities and resources that we need to provide our students and families, and have and engage our communities, and engage our teachers and our students and our families on what are the things that we need to do to move forward as a city and really strengthen our public school system.
Thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you.
Alejandra St. Guillen,
Thank you.